The laughter started before the test even began. Rows of alien cadets stood along the metal training floor of Orbital Academy 7. Their armor shimmered under the cold white lights, and their glowing eyes were fixed on one single human standing. At the far end of the arena, Ethan Cole, the only human accepted into the Academy this year. And right now, he was holding the strangest weapon anyone there had ever seen. It was long, thin, and dull gray. No power core. No glowing edges. No targeting system. Just a simple handle and a narrow strip of metal. A blade. One of the tall Varkathi cadets leaned toward his friend and snorted. "Is that a farming tool?" Another alien laughed loudly. "No energy emitter, no plasma channel. It cannot even cut training armor." More laughter spread through the room. Ethan didn't react. He simply stood there, calm and still, the blade resting in his right hand. The weapon looked ancient, primitive. To the aliens, it looked useless, but Ethan's grip on the handle tightened slightly. At the center of the arena, a massive floating drone, powered up with a deep mechanical hum. Its armored plates shifted into place, and red scanning lights swept across the floor. The instructor, Commander Zareth, stepped forward. Zareth was a towering Cathari officer with dark blue armor plates along his neck and shoulders. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Cadets, today you witness a compatibility test." He gestured toward Ethan. "This human claims his species developed combat methods without energy weapons." A murmur spread across the room. "Without energy weapons?" That sounded ridiculous. Zareth continued calmly. "Human Ethan Cole has requested permission to demonstrate a traditional Earth weapon." More laughter. One alien shouted from the back. "That piece of scrap?" Another added, "Even a maintenance drone could destroy him." Ethan ignored them. His eyes were fixed on the drone hovering 20 meters away. The machine slowly rotated, revealing layers of thick alloy armor. This was not a simple training target. This drone was designed to simulate battlefield threats, and it was extremely durable. Zareth raised one clawed hand, and the room fell silent. The drone's armor can withstand plasma rifles, ion cutters, and military-grade laser drills, he said. Several cadets nodded with interest. Then Zareth looked at Ethan. "You have one attempt." The drone's engines roared as it moved forward, hovering closer to the center of the arena. Its scanning beam locked onto Ethan. "Target acquired," the machine announced. The floor vibrated slightly. Many cadets crossed their arms, waiting for the human to embarrass himself. After all, what could a thin metal stick possibly do against advanced alloy armor? Ethan slowly stepped forward. One step, then another. The drone rotated again, preparing defensive shielding. Several alien cadets began whispering. "He cannot even reach it. That blade cannot cut composite metal. This will be amusing." Ethan stopped 10 meters away from the drone. For a moment, everything was quiet. The Academy lights hummed overhead. The drone's engines vibrated softly. Then Ethan lifted the blade, not dramatically, not like a hero in a story, just a simple motion. Commander Zareth watched carefully. Unlike the others, he was not laughing. His sharp alien eyes focused on the blade's edge, because he had read the human's file, and there was one word in that file that made him curious. Katana. Zareth leaned slightly toward the instructor beside him and whispered quietly, "That metal cuts titans." The other officer blinked in confusion, but before he could ask what that meant, Ethan moved. The motion was so fast that several cadets didn't even see it. One smooth step forward, a flash of silver, and then he was standing still. Again, the blade lowered quietly at his side. The drone hovered in the air, completely untouched. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one alien cadet burst out laughing. Did he miss? More laughter followed. "Yes, human, try again." But Ethan had already stepped back. His expression was calm. "Commander." Zareth's eyes narrowed, because he had heard something. A faint sound. Not an explosion, not a crack. Just a quiet metallic whisper. Thin lines suddenly appeared across the center of the drone's armored body. The laughter slowly faded. The glowing red scanner flickered, and then the massive training drone silently separated into two perfect halves. No sparks, no noise, just a clean, impossible cut. Both pieces fell to the ground with a heavy crash that echoed through the entire academy. Silence filled the room. Dozens of alien cadets stared at the destroyed machine, their eyes wide, their mouths slowly closing. No one laughed anymore. Ethan calmly wiped the blade with a cloth and returned it to its sheath. The room was still frozen in disbelief. Finally, one cadet whispered, his voice shaking. "How did a primitive weapon do that?" Commander Zareth didn't answer immediately. He was still staring at the blade, and for the first time since the test began, the alien instructor smiled slightly, because this demonstration had only been the beginning, and the cadets still had no idea what humans were truly capable of. The silence in the training hall lasted several long seconds. No one moved. No one spoke. The two halves of the destroyed drone still lay on the arena floor, perfectly separated, as if some invisible line had cut through them. A thin curl of smoke rose from the metal edges, but there were no burn marks, no melted armor. Just a clean cut. One alien cadet slowly stepped closer to the wreckage. His four eyes blinked rapidly as he stared at the sliced armor. That drone is reinforced battle plating, he said quietly. Another cadet knelt beside one half of the machine and touched the edge of the cut, like it was divided by a precision cutter. I scanned for it. More whispers spread through the chamber. Ethan stood quietly at the center of the arena, the blade now resting inside its sheath at his side. He looked calm, almost bored, like what just happened was completely normal. Commander Zareth stepped down from the instructor platform and walked toward the broken drone. Every cadet watched him. The Cathari officer crouched beside the wreckage and examined the metal carefully. His long claws traced the razor-straight cut that ran across the drone's body. His expression did not change, but inside, graviton cutters. And yet, he had never seen anything slice reinforced alloy this cleanly, without heat or energy discharge. Behind him, one of the cadets spoke loudly. "This must be a trick." Several others nodded quickly. "Yes, hidden technology. Maybe the human sabotaged the drone before the test." The accusations grew louder, but Ethan didn't defend himself. He simply waited. Commander Zareth slowly stood up and turned toward the cadets. His deep voice cut through the noise. "Enough." The hall instantly fell quiet again. Zareth pointed one claw toward Ethan's weapon. "Cadet Cole, remove the blade." Ethan nodded once. With a calm motion, he unsheathed the weapon again. The long gray blade caught the academy lights. It didn't glow. It looked like a simple piece of shaped metal. Primitive. Zare stepped closer. "Place it on the scanner table." Ethan walked to the nearby equipment station and set the blade down. The machine instantly activated. Blue scanning beams swept across the weapon. Numbers and analysis data began appearing on the holographic display above the table. Several cadets gathered around to see. One of them read the results aloud. "No power source detected." Another cadet frowned. "No nano-vibration system." A third cadet leaned forward in confusion. "No molecular disruptor field either." The whispers returned. "That is impossible." "Then how did it cut the drone?" Zareth studied the display carefully. Material composition: high carbon steel. Temperature: normal. Energy output: 0. He looked at Ethan again. "Explain." Ethan shrugged slightly. "It's just a sword." Several cadets immediately started laughing again. "Just a sword?" "Yes," Ethan replied calmly. "Humans have used blades like this for thousands of years." The laughter grew louder. One cadet slapped his armored chest. "You expect us to believe a 1,000-year-old weapon can destroy modern battle drones?" Another added mockingly, "Next you'll tell us humans fight wars with sticks and rocks." Ethan didn't respond right away. Instead, he slowly picked up the blade again and turned it slightly in the light. "You're looking at the weapon." Ethan looked around the arena at the alien cadets watching him. "Back on Earth," he said, "we didn't always have advanced technology. He raised the blade, so humans learned something else. A tall cadet crossed his arms. And what is that? Ethan's eyes sharpened. How to cut things that are stronger than us. Some of the cadets exchanged confused looks, but one of them pointed toward the destroyed drone. That armor is rated for battlefield survival. Ethan nodded. Yeah. He turned toward the wreckage, but armor has weak points. Zareth watched him carefully. Even when those weak points are microscopic, Ethan added. The room went quiet again. Zareth slowly walked back to the center of the arena. Then he looked up at the observation balcony above the hall. For a moment, his eyes focused on something the cadets could not see. Hidden control panel. Then he spoke. If the human believes his method is repeatable, we will test it again. A low hum echoed through the chamber. The arena floor shifted. Heavy, mechanical doors opened on the far side of the room. Something much larger slowly floated into the arena. This drone was 3 times the size of the first one. Its armor plating was thicker, darker. Multiple weapons rotated along its sides. Several cadets gasped. That's a combat simulation unit. Another whispered nervously. Even instructors struggle against those. The massive machine powered up. Red targeting lights locked onto Ethan. The drone's voice echoed through the hall. Combat mode activated. Energy shields flickered across its armored body. One cadet turned toward Zareth. Commander, that machine could kill him. Zareth did not look worried. Instead, he turned his gaze toward Ethan. Cadet Cole, he said calmly, you may begin. Ethan looked at the enormous machine hovering before him. Then he slowly drew the blade again. The thin strip of steel looked impossibly small against the massive armored drone. Several cadets began whispering nervously. There's no way. This time the human dies. The drone's engines roared louder. Targeting systems locked. Weapons charged. And in the center of the arena, Ethan Cole took one quiet step forward. The massive combat drone hovered in the center of the arena, its engines rumbling like distant thunder. Red targeting beams locked onto Ethan's chest, tracing every small movement he made. The machine's weapon ports slowly opened, revealing rows of ion cannons and pulse emitters. Around the arena, the alien cadets leaned forward. This was no longer funny. This drone was designed to simulate real battlefield threats. It could react faster than most soldiers and calculate combat patterns. In milliseconds. One cadet whispered nervously. That thing can track 12 targets at once. Another replied quietly. And it has predictive targeting. Ethan stood alone, holding nothing but the thin steel blade. The drone spoke in a cold mechanical voice. Threat level, minimal. Several cadets chuckled again, but their laughter sounded forced this time. The drone's engines flared brighter, engaging suppression protocol. A sharp burst of energy fired from one of its cannons and slammed into the arena floor just beside Ethan, sending sparks and fragments of metal flying. The warning shot echoed through the chamber. Ethan didn't flinch. He slowly began walking forward. Step by step, the drone adjusted its position, floating backward slightly, while its scanners continued analyzing him. Analyzing weapon. It announced. The machine paused for a moment. Then its voice responded again. Primitive object detected. Non-threat. Classification. Several cadets smirked. See? Even the machine knows. But Commander Zareth remained silent. His sharp eyes followed Ethan's every movement, because something about the human's posture had changed. He wasn't walking like someone approaching a fight. He was walking like someone who had already decided how it would end. The drone's targeting beams narrowed, engaging restraint strike. Another burst of energy shot toward Ethan, faster this time. At the last possible moment, Ethan moved. The motion was small, barely a shift of his body, but the beam missed him by less than an inch. Several cadets gasped. He dodged that? Impossible. The drone predicts movement. But Ethan kept moving forward. Another energy blast fired. Again, Ethan shifted his step. Again, the attack missed. Now the cadets were no longer whispering. They were staring. How is he doing that? He's not even running. The drone recalculated. Its scanners flashed brighter. Movement pattern irregular. Weapons rotated. 3 cannons fired at once. Energy bolts streaked through the air. Ethan's feet slid across the metal floor as he stepped, turned, and leaned, avoiding the attacks with movements so smooth they almost looked slow. But the bolts never touched him. Not once. Commander Zareth folded his arms. Now, the cadets were beginning to understand something important. The human was not reacting randomly. Every movement was precise. Every step placed him exactly where he needed to be. Not another volley of energy. Blasts filled the arena. Ethan moved through them like flowing water. One cadet's voice trembled. "He's predicting the drone." Another corrected him quietly. "No, he's reading it." The drone's targeting system struggled to adapt. Probability calculations failing. It announced. Ethan was now only 5 meters away. The drone raised its main cannon. A heavy weapon designed to disable armored vehicles. The barrel glowed as it charged. If that shot landed, the fight would be over instantly. Several cadets held their breath. The cannon fired. A massive beam exploded across the arena. But when the light faded, Ethan was already moving. He had dashed forward in the exact moment before the blast fired, slipping underneath the drone's firing angle. Now he stood directly beneath the hovering machine. For the first time, the drone hesitated. Target lost. Ethan looked up. The armored belly of the drone loomed above him. Layer after layer of reinforced plating. To the cadets watching, it looked completely invulnerable. One cadet whispered, "There's no weak point there." Another said quietly, "Even if there was, that blade can't reach through armor like that." Ethan exhaled slowly. His fingers tightened around the sword's handle. Then he stepped forward. Just one, stepped out and swung. The blade moved so fast it was almost invisible. A sharp, metallic whisper cut through the air. The drone froze. Its engines sputtered. The red targeting beams flickered wildly. For 2 seconds, nothing happened. Then a thin glowing line appeared across the drone's lower armor. The machine tried to move, tried to stabilize, but its internal systems began failing. Critical structural damage detected. The drone announced. The cadets stared in disbelief. The glowing line widened, and suddenly, the entire lower section of the massive drone slid apart. Heavy armor plates crashed onto the arena floor. Sparks exploded from exposed wiring. The drone's engines died instantly, and the crippled machine collapsed sideways with a thunderous crash. Silence filled the academy once again. The enormous combat drone worth millions of credits had been destroyed. By a single strike. Ethan slowly lowered the blade around the arena. Alien cadets stared at him, as if they were seeing a completely different species. No one laughed anymore. One cadet finally spoke in a stunned whisper. "That shouldn't be possible." Commander Zareth stepped forward slowly. His voice echoed through the quiet hall. "No," he said calmly. "It shouldn't." He looked at Ethan. Then at the blade. And for the first time, the commander felt a small sense of unease. Because if a simple human soldier could do this with a primitive weapon, then the galaxy had badly underestimated Earth. The destroyed combat drone still smoked on the arena floor. Twisted armor plates were scattered everywhere, and sparks flickered from exposed circuits. The entire academy hall had gone silent again, but this silence felt different. Before, the cadets had been amused. Now they were uneasy. Dozens of alien eyes were fixed on the lone human, standing calmly in the center of the arena. Ethan Cole slowly cleaned the blade with a small cloth, just as he had done after the first test. His movements were relaxed, almost casual, as if destroying advanced war machines was something he did every day. One cadet finally spoke. "That drone was built to resist military weapons." Another whispered, "Even our combat instructors struggle against those." Across the room, a tall Varkathi cadet stared at Ethan with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "This makes no sense," he growled. "That blade is nothing more than shaped metal." Commander Zareth said nothing for a moment. His sharp eyes were not on the wreckage. They were on Ethan, studying him, measuring him, because Zareth had fought in 3 interstellar wars. He had seen elite soldiers from dozens of advanced civilizations. But something about the human felt different. Finally, Zareth spoke. "Cadet Cole." Ethan looked up. "Yes, Commander?" Zareth gestured toward the destroyed machine. "You demonstrated remarkable combat skill. However, one question remains." He paused. "How did you know exactly where to strike?" Several cadets leaned forward. That was the real mystery. The drones. Armor had no visible weak points, got no exposed seams, nothing that a blade should have been able to cut through. Ethan considered the question for a moment. Then he gave a small shrug. "I didn't." Confused murmurs spread across the room. One cadet frowned. "What do you mean you didn't?" Ethan rested the sword across his shoulder. "I just cut where the machine told me to." The room went completely still. Zareth narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Ethan looked up at the massive drone wreckage. "You aliens rely on technology for everything," he said. "Your weapons, your armor, your scanners, even your fighting styles." Several cadets stiffened. Ethan continued calmly. "But humans didn't grow up with that." He tapped the side of his head. "So we learned to notice other things." Zareth crossed his arms. "Such as?" Ethan pointed toward the broken drone. "The sound." The cadets exchanged confused looks. "What sound?" one of them asked. Ethan walked over to the wreckage and lightly tapped one of the metal plates with his knuckles. The hollow metallic echo spread through the arena. "When something moves," Ethan said, "it vibrates." He tapped another section. A slightly different sound echoed. Different materials vibrate differently. Armor plates, internal frames, rotating systems. He turned back toward the cadets. "Even when machines are quiet, they still make noise." Few cadets blinked slowly as the realization began to form. Ethan continued. "When that drone moved, its engines created tiny vibrations. The armor shifted around the internal support frame." He pointed to the exact place where the drone had split, and that told me where the structural joints were. One cadet whispered in disbelief. "You heard the weak point?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah." Silence returned again. Commander Zareth stared at him for several seconds. Then he turned toward the control panel above the arena. His clawed hand moved slightly. Hidden command activated. The cadets did not notice, but Ethan did. His eyes shifted slightly toward the far wall. The large armored doors of the arena suddenly began to open again. Heavy metal panels slid apart with a deep mechanical rumble. Several cadets turned in confusion. "What now?" A cold wind blew into the training hall from the dark chamber beyond the doors. And then something stepped inside. It was not a drone. It was enormous. A towering combat mech nearly 5 meters tall, covered in layered war armor. Its red sensors glowed like burning eyes as it slowly walked into the arena. Each step shook the floor. One cadet gasped. "That's a Titan-class war machine." Another whispered nervously. "Those aren't used for training." The giant machine stopped in the center of the arena and powered up with a thunderous roar. Energy shields flickered across its body. Heavy weapons rotated into position. Ethan stared at it quietly. Then he slowly looked toward Commander Zareth. The alien officer was watching him very carefully. Finally, Zareth spoke. "This academy was not built to train soldiers for ordinary battles." His deep voice echoed across the chamber. "It exists to prepare warriors for the threats beyond the frontier." Several cadets looked confused, but Zareth's gaze never left Ethan. "For the last 2 years," he continued, "our fleets have encountered something far more dangerous than any alien empire." The Titan mech's engines growled as it fully activated. Zareth finished his sentence quietly. "Machines that hunt." The cadets stiffened. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. Because, suddenly, this was no longer a test. Commander Zareth pointed toward the towering war machine. "If humanity truly fights the way you claim." He paused. "Then show us." The Titan mech raised its massive cannon and aimed directly at Ethan. And for the first time since the trial began, the humans stopped smiling. The Titan-class war machine stood in the center of the arena like a walking fortress. Its massive armored body blocked half the training hall lights, casting a long shadow across the metal floor. Thick energy shields shimmered around it, glowing faintly blue. The cadets stepped back instinctively. This was no training drone. This machine was built for war. Ethan looked up at it quietly. For the first time since the test began, the situation felt different. Not impossible, but serious. Commander Zareth's deep voice echoed across the arena. This machine simulates the autonomous hunters our fleets have encountered beyond the frontier. Several cadets exchanged uneasy looks. One whispered, "Those machines destroyed 3 patrol fleets." Another added, "Their armor adapts. Their targeting systems evolve during combat." Zareth continued calmly, his eyes fixed on Ethan. "If humans claim they can fight without advanced technology, then we must know if that skill can survive against a true battlefield predator." The Titan mech powered up fully. Its sensors locked onto Ethan. Target acquired. The ground vibrated as the machine took one heavy step forward. Inside the cockpit chamber, its combat AI began calculating thousands of possible attack patterns. Ethan slowly drew his blade again. The thin strip of steel looked almost ridiculous compared to the towering machine. Several cadets held their breath. One of them whispered, "There is no way." A massive plasma bolt exploded across the arena, turning the metal floor into glowing slag. But Ethan was already moving. The Titan mech recalculated. Instantly, more weapons activated. Energy bolts, pulse blasts, and kinetic rounds filled the air. The arena became a storm of destruction. But inside that storm, Ethan moved. Step, turn, slide, each motion precise. Each movement placed exactly between the attacks. The cadets stared in disbelief. "He's dancing through it." Commander Zareth watched with narrowed eyes. Because this was not luck. The human was reading the machine, just like before. The Titan mech advanced, its massive foot slamming into the floor. Combat probability increasing, the AI announced. Its main cannon began charging. A blinding beam of concentrated plasma fired straight toward Ethan. But this time, Ethan didn't dodge backward. He ran forward, straight toward the machine. Gasps echoed through the arena. Is he insane? The beam exploded behind him as he sprinted beneath the mech's firing angle. Now he stood directly beside one of the Titan's massive legs. The armor plates were thick, layered, and reinforced. Impossible to cut. At least, that's what everyone believed. Ethan placed one hand against the metal, closed his eyes for half a second, and listened. The machine's engines roared. Servos whined. Internal pistons shifted deep within the frame. Tiny vibrations traveled through the armor. To the cadets, it was meaningless noise. To Ethan, it was a map. His eyes opened. "There," he whispered. The sword flashed. A single strike. A sharp, metallic whisper cut through the thunder of the battlefield. For one long moment, nothing happened. Then a thin crack appeared along the machine's knee joint. The massive war machine tried to step forward, but the entire leg collapsed. The Titan mech crashed sideways with a deafening impact that shook the entire arena. Sparks erupted everywhere. Its weapons died. Its systems flickered. Critical structural failure, the AI announced weakly. Silence followed. The towering war machine, the same model used in real interstellar combat, had been disabled by a single human strike. Ethan stepped away from the fallen machine and slowly sheathed the blade. The arena was completely quiet. Dozens of alien cadets stared at him in stunned disbelief. One of them whispered, "How?" Commander Zareth finally stepped forward. He looked at the destroyed Titan mech, then at the human standing calmly beside it. And for the first time since the academy was built, the alien commander bowed his head slightly. Not in defeat, in respect. "You were correct, Cadet Cole," Zareth said quietly. Zareth turned toward them. For centuries, the galaxy believed strength came from better technology. His voice echoed across the hall. But humans developed something far older and far more dangerous. He looked back at Ethan. Understanding. Ethan shrugged. Lightly, Machines follow patterns, he said, and anything with a pattern can break. The cadets stood silently, absorbing those words, because suddenly they realized something terrifying. Be the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Remember what you witnessed today. He gestured toward the fallen Titan mech. Then he pointed toward Ethan. But warriors, he paused, are built by struggle. Ethan gave a small smile as the academy lights dimmed and the training session ended. And somewhere beyond the stars, the machine hunters were still waiting. But now the galaxy knew something important. Earth was no longer just another young civilization. It was a world that had spent thousands of years learning exactly how to cut giants down